We're given the first two terms of the arithmetic sequence where a sub 0 is 5 and a sub 1 is 10. We want to write the next two terms. It's important that you note this is arithmetic. Remember, that means adding. So if I look up here, arithmetic, we want to add each time for our next term. So if 5 is my first and 10 is my next, then 15 would be the next one and 20 would be the next one. Our recursive formula, kind of like the now next, we could say a sub n equals the last term, a sub n minus 1, plus 5. Always important on recursive formulas to give your original value, where a sub 0 here is 5. A function formula for the sequence, we know it's growing by 5 every time, so we would set our function notation here, a sub n, not a sub n, a of n, you will say, is equal to 5, our growth every time, times n. Now we want to check, remember there's different formulas, sometimes they have n minus 1s in here, but we want to say if you were to plug in 0, you need to get 5. If you were to plug in 1, you need to get 10. So if I put 0 in here, 5 times 0 gives me 0. I need to add 5 in order to get that 5. Try it with 1. 5 times 1 is 5, plus 5 makes 10. So that function formula works. It's always important to check the terms that you have in your function formula to make sure it's the right one. Now to find the sum of the first 15 terms of the sequence, because 15 is not that much, you might choose to write out the first 15 terms and add them, but we need to be able to show that formula. Remember, the Gauss guy said, if you take the number of terms that you want to add up times your initial term plus your 15th term. You might say, how do I know my 15th term without writing them all out? Well, think about it. My first term, or my 0th term, is 5. That means if I plug in 0 in here, I get 5. So if I'm looking for the 15th term, that's actually going to be when n equals 14 in this function formula. So let's put that in there. If we took 5 times 14 and added 5, that'll give us the 15th term. It's important to remember what you start with. The first term they gave you was your a sub 0. So that's our first term. It's like a shift. The 0th term is our first term. So the 14th n, a sub n, would be our 15th term. That's why I plugged 14 in here. 14 times 5 added to 5 gives me 75. You could always check that and write it out, but that would be your 15th term. So my 15th term is 75. Add those together, and then we divide by 2, because remember the process in a previous video or what you learned in class? You added them up forward and then backward. That was double the amount you needed, so you divide by 2. Solving this math right here gives me 600. And that would be the sum of your first 15 terms.